The smoke from the grill hadn't even cleared when Henry made the comment. He stood beside me, beer in hand, one foot resting on the edge of the patio bricks like he owned the damn place. Technically, I guess he thought he did. "You missed a spot there, son," he said, pointing to the corner of the rack. Then he turned to the crowd, voice raised just enough to cut through the music. "Man's more of a servant than a husband. At least he grills well." Laughter followed. Not nervous, not unsure. Full, throaty laughter. My wife, Megan, laughed too. Hand over her wine glass, chin tilted back, like it was the most natural thing in the world to hear her father demean me in front of 30 people. I stared at her for a full second longer than I should have. Long enough for her to notice. She didn't flinch, didn't apologize. She just turned away, started chatting with her cousin like nothing had happened. That was the moment. The second I stopped being surprised. Let me back up for context, not sympathy. Megan's family had always been old money. Not rich, but the kind of people who thought they were because their last name showed up in local buildings and fundraising brochures. Her father, Henry, ran a contracting business that hadn't turned a real profit in over a decade, but he carried himself like he held the keys to the city. When Megan and I got married, I didn't come from nothing. I had my own firm, small, clean, steady income. Real estate law. Contracts, deals, escrow. Boring to most people, but it kept me sharp. I paid off my student loans by 30 and bought the house we lived in by 33. Megan never paid a cent for it. She brought her charm, her social calendar, and her family's approval, the last one being a poison chalice if there ever was one. I played along for years. Sunday brunches, charity events, helping Henry review legal documents he didn't understand, mostly to inflate his ego. And Megan? She enjoyed the show, liked watching me juggle their nonsense while she basked in the status it gave her. But that day, that barbecue, that was something else. It wasn't just a joke. It was positioning. That word, servant, wasn't accidental. It was a test. And she laughed. I turned the meat, closed the grill, wiped my hands, and walked inside. Nobody noticed. Not right away. The moment I was out of sight, I went straight to the home office. I'd been preparing for this, in the quiet margins of my patience. I opened the drawer, pulled out the folder marked contingencies, and flipped it open. Inside were copies of everything: property deeds, trust revisions, company shares. All filed, signed, dated. 6 months ago, after Henry accidentally bragged to Megan that he'd convinced her to ask for the house title to be put in both our names, for fairness. I knew what they were circling. They thought I was slow. They didn't know I'd already shifted the house into a holding company, one registered in Delaware, shielded, structured, and untraceable unless you knew where to look. The car she drove? Leased through my company. The credit card she used? Tied to a secondary business account I controlled. Everything Megan touched was borrowed, and the paperwork proved it. Back outside, I watched from the kitchen window. Henry poured himself another beer. Megan was laughing again, louder this time. Her cousin, the one who once drunkenly told me Megan had a backup plan in L.A., stood next to her. I took the house keys off the hook. Heavy, familiar. Then I walked outside. "Henry," I called. Calm. Direct. He turned, already smiling like he'd won something. "Yeah, what can I do for you, Grillmaster?" I didn't answer. I walked up, handed him the keys. "What's this?" he said. "The house keys," I said. "You're the man of the house, right?" Confused silence fell over the crowd. Megan stepped forward, face tight. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm giving your father what he wants," I said. "Let him run the show. Let him pay the property taxes next month. Let him fix the leaking roof." Henry's mouth opened. Closed. "This isn't funny," Megan hissed. "No, it's not," I said. "But it is fair." I turned to leave. No screaming. No scene. That was when Megan grabbed my arm. "Wait. What are you talking about?" I pulled away. Calm. Collected. "I transferred the property," I said. "You laughed when he called me a servant. Now you can both see what it looks like when the servant leaves." Gasps. Then silence. I walked through the gate, past the cars parked crooked on the lawn, and didn't look back. I didn't go far. Just enough. A rental apartment downtown, short-term lease, no frills. The kind of place you sleep in, not live. While Megan scrambled to figure out what had just happened, I was already 3 moves ahead. She called that night. 10 times. I didn't answer. The voicemails started with confusion, then anger, then desperation. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Come home, we'll talk. You're embarrassing me in front of my family. Exactly. I let her sit in it for a week. 7 days without heat in the master bedroom. No cleaning service. No groceries magically restocking the fridge. Henry tried to cover the gaps, but even he wasn't stupid enough to miss the paperwork when the mail started arriving, addressed to Brandwell Holdings LLC. That was the company. I formed it a year ago. Quietly. Legally. The house title had been transferred months back under Megan's nose, while she was at a spa retreat in Napa with her sister. Her signature was never needed. It was never hers to begin with. Day 8, I met with my lawyer, Marla. We reviewed the prenup, then the trust documents. Everything was airtight. Megan had no ownership over the house, the accounts, or the business assets. Her name was on nothing. You're not divorcing yet? Marla asked. Not yet, I said. Let her move the pieces first. Because Megan? She still thought this was about a fight. A moment of pride. She hadn't realized it was war. That Friday, I received an email from our joint therapist. Megan had scheduled a marriage emergency session. I replied politely, declined. She tried showing up at my office next. Security turned her away. Then she called my mother. My sister. Left messages, painting me as erratic, emotionally unstable, going through something. She was trying to control the narrative, reclaim the role of victim. But the moment that sealed it came 3 weeks in. Henry showed up. He waited outside my office building, leaning on his Cadillac, sunglasses on, like this was a goddamn movie scene. Can we talk? He said. I didn't shake his hand, just looked at him. You need directions to your new house? He winced. Look, I might have said something out of line at the barbecue. No, I cut in. You said exactly what you meant. And she laughed because she agreed. I was just trying to. You weren't trying anything. You were declaring ownership. You just didn't realize I'd already sold the land under your feet. He looked away. She's been a mess since you left. You're punishing her. No, I said. I'm reminding her. Of what? That this wasn't hers. None of it was. She played a role. She thought applause meant power. But she forgot who built the stage. He didn't respond. I walked past him, back into the building. The next week, Megan lawyered up. I received a formal notice requesting mediation over joint marital assets. The attached list was bold: house, vehicles, investment accounts, furniture, jewelry. I sent back a simple packet: title records, account histories, asset trails, each with one note. Sole owner, prior to marriage. Her attorney must have told her. There was nothing to claim. That's when her real panic began. She tried to win the public back. Social media posts about growth, boundaries, forgiveness. Passive-aggressive quotes about people who walk away when things get hard. I ignored them, but I was watching. The 4th week, I triggered the second phase of the plan. The car she drove, technically leased through my S-Corp, was overdue for renewal. I had it towed from the driveway while she was out shopping. The bank account tied to the household credit card? Closed. She called again, 30 times in a day. Left voicemails, texted from alternate numbers. Her tone shifted. Now it was fear. Please, I'm sorry. Can we just talk? I didn't mean to laugh. I didn't think it would hurt you. You're right, okay? Just come home. I didn't respond. But I was listening. And I was waiting for the next move. Because there's always a next move. And the smart ones know, it's not about how loud you can scream. It's about how quietly you take everything away. Week 5. Megan filed for reconciliation. That's what she called it. A formal court motion requesting mediation to preserve the sanctity of marriage. Her lawyer attached a statement saying I had withheld marital property. They still didn't get it. There was no property to withhold. She owned nothing. I didn't show up to the first mediation session. Sent Marla instead. She brought a single-page document, a summary of assets with one line circled in red. All holdings acquired prior to or outside of marriage. 100% sole ownership. The mediator asked if we were willing to pursue counseling. Marla smiled. My client is pursuing closure. That same day, Megan showed up at the rental. I didn't answer the door. She sat outside for hours, texting, crying, knocking like the house would eventually feel sorry for her. But it wasn't our home anymore. It was a shell. She left a note under the door. I didn't read it. Week 6. Henry called again. Left a voicemail. Said I was breaking her spirit. He still didn't get it. She broke her own spine the moment she turned her back, while I carried the weight of her world. Called it partnership, but treated me like staff. Let her father brand me like property and laughed while he did it. Week 7, I sold the house. Brandwell Holdings made a quiet transaction with a private equity buyer I'd been courting. Closed at a 28% profit over original value. The money flowed into a silent trust. Megan never saw a dollar. That weekend, I sent her the final papers. Divorce. Property settlement. A letter. Simple. Direct. Megan, there's nothing left to discuss. You laugh while I was mocked. That wasn't the first time. It was just the last. I gave you comfort. You gave me contempt. We're done. Jay. She didn't respond. Not directly. But her cousin called 2 days later, the same one from the barbecue. Drunk, sloppy voicemail. You ruined her life, man. She loved you. You just snapped. No, I didn't snap. I saw clearly, and I adjusted accordingly. Week 10, final documents came through. Divorce finalized. No contest. No settlement. She'd tried, but every angle led to a dead end. I made sure of that. Henry stopped showing up in public. Rumor was he tried to take out a loan against the house before realizing he no longer had the leverage to even step inside. Megan moved in with her sister. Her car was gone. Boutique shut down. Social media scrubbed. The version of her they built, the perfect, polished woman with the perfect home and the servant husband, had evaporated. And me? I kept moving. Transferred operations to a new firm in Chicago. Low profile. Quiet returns. Peaceful mornings. No shadows dragging me back. Sometimes people ask if I regret it. If I'd have just sat through the barbecue, smiled, let it go. Save the marriage. But that was never an option. Because marriages built on quiet disrespect don't collapse. They rot. And by the time you smell the decay, it's already in your lungs. Megan thought I was furniture. A fixture. The one who would always be there to hold the weight so she could shine. She forgot. Even the strongest foundation has a limit. And when it moves, everything on top crumbles.